We are looking at some more tenses today. The tenses we've already done are the simple tenses, right? And if you don't know what those are, please go look at the video about the simple tenses just so you can refresh that in your mind and you can see how these are different. So today we're going to look at all the different continuous tenses. Okay. Right, so what we're going to look at is past continuous and present continuous and future continuous. Now, of course, with all of these, the three letters that are important are ing, as that is how the verb is conjugated. Okay, and we're going to look at three different kinds of sentences within these. A statement, normal statement sentence, the negative form of that statement, and of course, a question. We can also look at commands, but it's not going to be that important. Okay, so let's start with the, well, not the easiest one, but simplest one, which is our present continuous. So let's look at a very simple sentence. Let's look at run. Right. First, we need our subject. So I am running. There is the simplest form of that. But if I say he is running, and I can also say they are running. Okay. Oop. 3 ends there. So in present continuous, that's how it's going to look. And here are your important words. Am, is, and are. It will always be one of those three, and then you will have your ing, ing, ing. Okay, that's present continuous. It's as simple as that. I will always have am, he, she, and any other singular verb will always be is, and plural verbs will always be are, including you, right? You will be, because you can be singular or plural, so we default it as plural. You are running, okay? If we look at the negative of that, that's very simple. I am not running. All right, so you just add a not in there. Sometimes you can make a contraction out of that, where you say he is not running, which can then turn into he isn't running. Right, so the is and the not will contract together to make the negative form there. You can say they're running, they aren't running. And of course, you have to be careful here. These ones can also contract where it says they're running or you're running. But it's still the same sentence, and the are is there. You just have to make sure that you know that, oh yes, there's still are in there. And even with this one, he is can change into his running as well. Okay, I'm just going to undo those just so we can see. Okay, so I'll put that in brackets just so you can see there. It can also be there. Okay, and it can also be your. Right, if you put the contraction in, and this one will be his, and this one will be I'm. Okay, but the ing stays there. All right, so and this one of course can go I'm not running, but you cannot put the am and the not together. Okay, so that's a negative, right? And they are not, or they aren't running. All right, so that is the continuous negative, right? Okay. Oh, wrong one. But then for your question, it's going to look a little bit different. Basically, you take these three. You take your three auxiliary verbs from here, the am, the is, and the are, and you move them to the front. They become your question words. Like, am I running? That's a very strange question, but it is grammatically correct. Is he running? Okay. Are they running? So your ing stays throughout, and this one is basically the same. You're just switching around the auxiliary verb and the subject, which then comes after that. And of course, you add your question mark. All right, so that is pretty much present continuous tense. Am, is, are, ing. Okay, right. So let's then get to past continuous tense, which is basically the same, except instead of am, is, and are, we have was, and we have were. And that's pretty much it, right? So it's actually easier than present continuous because you only have the two auxiliary verbs, was and were, right? And again, when you have these, it's still the same ing running. Running is exactly the same, right? I was running, and of course, oh, he were. He was, okay, and they were running, right? Knew I made a mistake there somewhere. Okay, let's look at the negative form. Simple, same as here. You just add a not to that, right? He was not running. I was not running, right? The not makes it negative, okay? And of course, you can go he wasn't running as well with that one. I'm just going to do the one. You can, the other ones are pretty much simple there. Okay. I was not running or I wasn't running. They were not running or they weren't running. So you can do the contraction there as well if you want. Okay. And with the question, it becomes exactly the same as in the present tense, where you just take the auxiliary verb and you move it to the front. So was and were, okay, was I running? And of course, were they running? Okay. And the ing stays exactly the same as it was, even though it is negative. Right. So very simple. You just follow the rules. Was, were, ing, and you add a not for the negative there. Okay. Right. Then we get to future continuous, which is a little tricky, but in actual fact, it is simpler. Okay. And I'm just going to write one here. He will be running. The reason why I'm writing just one is because whether it's he or they or you or I, it doesn't matter. It will always be will be. Okay, there is no other one. Will be running. Okay, and again, the ing stays the same there. So they will be running, you will be running, I will be running, John and Sarah will be running. It doesn't matter. It'll always be will be, which makes it very, very simple. The only thing that's tricky is that you need to remember that it's not just will running, it's will be running. Okay? Then your negative, the not goes in between the will and the be. I'll make it red there so you can see it. See? Okay. seem to want to change its color there. There we go. Okay, he will not be running. And of course, that one can look like this. He won't be running. And that's tricky because it seems like it's not future tense because you don't see the will anymore because it's absorbed by that contraction won't. Will not becomes won't, but it's still the same sentence and it's still future continuous tense. Okay, then we move to our questions, and once again you just move your, but this one's a little more tricky than the other ones, right? So you move the will to the front. Will he be running? Okay, so the two auxiliary verbs there, change the color, will be on either side of the subject he. Will he be running? Okay, right. And that's how your future continuous question form will look like. Okay, and that's basically continuous tense. Really one of just the easiest tenses if you can remember how they look. And there's no like fancy verbs like in simple past tense where you have to remember the irregular verbs like ran and swept and took. You don't have to remember that because all the verbs just get ing. I specifically used run because you can see that the n doubles there, right? So sometimes the ing suffix will change the spelling of the main verb there. All right. And that's basically continuous tenses. Yeah. Oh, one last thing, of course, is that you can have shall, right? He shall be running. But it's it's very archaic English. We don't really speak like that anymore unless you're in a Shakespeare play. But I will take that correct in a test if I asked you to convert something to future continuous and you use shall instead of will. Okay.